Thank you, everybody, for paying attention. Jeff's going to pull something up special here. We don't have much left. I just want to reiterate some of the points made during the day that I thought were particularly poignant. I use some good old-fashioned technology to do it here, pen and paper, which actually has a really a great use case in many times, particularly when you're sitting in front of a big audience. It was a fun day, and we really appreciate the attention you gave and the focus and the great questions that came out and the participants who are up and being grilled and such. So it was a wonderful time. I just want to reiterate a few. We actually captured, which Jeff is trying to pull up here, some interesting tweets and posts and such that happened during the day. Because the world happens like all now, right? And that was probably the lesson we learned. Geoffrey Moore, I want to start with Geoffrey Moore a little bit. He really, I think, touched a nerve on a lot of people. He said something like, oh, I'm not feeling productive. I need to go log into SAP, right? The mind doesn't work that way. He talks about your need as CIOs to trust the guy with body piercings, as he put it. Which I think was, but what I think Geoffrey really did was he sort of, I think a lot of technology professionals feel a lot of angst about their responsibilities and the burdens they carry and the difficulties in sort of transitioning, to this new world while maintaining, their responsibilities to their companies. And I think Geoffrey did an amazing job of kind of touching on those. And putting a finger on the pulse of the angst that so many technology executives feel. The CIOs were up here. A great group of CIOs who have taken the dip into the cloud, most of them with Salesforce and with Google, and presumably Amazon and other services as well. And that was really interesting. I think in particular, Walt from Motorola saying, this is what we've been asking for a long time. Just buy what you need, only what you need, and don't have to worry about it. In a certain sense, the cloud has a lot to offer to people who have been looking for something like this for a long time. We still have more work to do to make the change management go better. And, I think it was Mark from Seagate who said, 70% of the users were neutral to positive, 30% neutral to not so positive. And there's always difficulties in making changes from systems people have been in for years, if not decades. And we, Google, and other providers of cloud providers actually need to sort of make that easier for people to make the shift. And I think that was really useful. A lot of people talked about how messaging was very central to their effort, but then the collaborative stuff, the docs, saw great organic growth. It struck me also that it's really sometimes disconcerting to IT professionals to say, we didn't tell them how to use it. They discovered it themselves. I think the traditional IT project says this is a new process, this is how we do it, and this is how you should do it. And the nature of products where people will discover how to use it, how to get productivity out of it, is a little less clear to people than I think other places. Mel from MWV talked about the benefits of acquisitions, being able to integrate an acquisition quickly. I think flexibility obviously is a key tenet of the cloud. We'll skip forward a little bit in the interest of time. Mary Meeker was great. The mobile market is just so exploding that it's fascinating and really interesting to see the U.S. actually taking the lead in 3G adoption, which I thought was pretty interesting. But the point that Mary made, which really struck me, is she talked about in the mobile world, the leading edge of technology and capability is happening with games. And then it sort of trickles down to other areas of technology and mobile development. Now, I thought that was kind of ironic considering today's the 40-year anniversary of the Apollo 13 liftoff. And in those who, I was young when the Apollo missions went up. I was alive, yes, but I was young. And what I remember about Apollo missions was Tang, right? Tang. Technology would come from NASA and trickle down. And now in the mobile world, the newest, the biggest, most, fastest area of development almost in the history of technology, it's happening in games. And that is such a change, but it really, suggests the way the world has gone. Pace of innovation unprecedented was the word she used to describe mobile. And I think that's very exciting. Quickly, Mark from Salesforce, always a delight to hear. Maybe for some of us a little disheartening to hear we were all excited about the cloud and we realized we were on cloud 1 and he's on cloud 2. So apparently we're all quickly falling behind, but we're going to work very hard to catch up. And it never really struck me that Lotus Notes was actually conceived before Mark Zuckerberg was, but that is an interesting fact for us to think about. Werner Vogel from Amazon, always great. Security #1. I mean, I think there's any message cloud companies need to make, both with statement, with behavior, with facts, with technology. It's about security, and Amazon's doing a great job at that. Also, that AWS will be as big or bigger than their e-commerce business. That's just mind-boggling to me, but it shows you what great companies can do when they set their mind to it. The Google innovations, you know, I always love when they pull out showing you some great product stuff from Google. One of the things I'm most proud about Google as a company is that research is not in the ivory tower. It doesn't happen for years or decades and never find its way as value to our users. And you know, when I joined Google 6 years ago, machine translation of languages, speech recognition were core areas of research. And in many companies, they would live in that world for many, many, many years. Today, you see them in Gmail. You see them on your Android phones. You see them on your iPhones. And that, to me, is really exciting. This is something that, you know, my history of technology I haven't seen before, where real hardcore computer science research is translated into usable products used by, you know, tens, if not hundreds of millions of people right away. That, to me, is actually what I get out of that. That's very exciting. And Janine Benyus, biomimicry. This was a great break. We all learned that we have 30 trillion cells, give or take, within us. That was great. Life is a team sport. That was something that really struck me. And I do tend to think of what we're doing in the cloud, what others are doing in the cloud, that is principally different than the prior generation of technology, is it's not about individuals, it's about teams. It's not about individual productivity, it's about organizational and team productivity. And it is very heartening to know that despite all we've accomplished, there's a lot to learn from nature. I really was struck by the collaborative metabolism, the bacteria in the mud at the bottom of the ocean, and their ability to metabolize through creating networks, and the size of that network. Maybe the only social network in the world actually larger than Facebook. So I thought that was pretty powerful. And we wrapped with Eric, and it was great to have Eric here. It's always wonderful to hear Eric. And I thought, really, the very end of his speech is what struck me, his comments on leadership, about challenging assumptions, and about how he learned about that from Larry and Sergey, which I found very interesting. And also, leadership in terms of mentorship, asking questions more than telling people what to do. I think that's a very powerful statement, and I can assure you at Google, we are asked a lot of questions. It's in our nature. So again, thanks everybody. Now, I really want to encourage those of you still here to join us for dinner tonight. We have I'm going to give you the logistics in 1 second, but it's been a great day, and a lot of the Google team and others will be there, so we really hope you'll take the time to be there. So here we go. Now the fun begins. We will be heading to Advantage Aviation at the Palo Alto Airport. This is not the kind of airport that gives you angst and makes you feel really bad and stand in long lines, just so you know. Where there will be a networking reception from 6:30 to 8 p.m., followed by a seated dinner at 8 p.m. sharp. That's what it says here, sharp. Shuttles will be going immediately to the reception as well as back to the conference hotels if you'd like to go to your room first. The last shuttle from the hotels to the dinner will be at 7:30. If you are driving, there's an address right in your name tag. There's an address for where you're going. And with those zippy new Android phones, you know the rest. Let me see what else. I think that's all. So look, again, thank you all for joining us today. Hopefully it's been a fun event for you and an informative event. And we really appreciate that you made the time to come, and look forward to seeing more of you and talking with a lot of you over dinner. Thank you.